Take two is always better. Are we live? Take two. Hi, I'm Dr. Boz. It's Sunday night. Welcome to Sunday Night Lives. I am excited to show you a couple of things that I think will help over 80% of you who said on the poll this week that there's no one else in your house that does keto. How? So welcome. I'm Dr. Boz, and we are Ketones for Life here at the Dr. Boz Channel. My Sunday night regulars, if you can give me a thumbs up that you hear and see me, which is why this is take two, because nobody did that for a good old minute while I was talking the first time. I have some updates that we're going to go through in the routine of doing our Sunday Night Lives. We have some thank you for those of you that just did that. Thank you. You can hear me and see me. I have some updates for the week, and then there is going to be a little bit of I think encouragement is the right word I'm looking for. As I looked at that poll that we put out, we've tried to understand this audience a little better. So we're doing a few things. I'll give you some sneak peeks for what's coming ahead. Number one, we finished up this past week on the second big group that I walked through the keto continuum. That's the online course, Consistently Keto, that I use to, instead of the hours you can spend on YouTube learning the ketogenic diet, this is a much more succinct way to get from beginning to end. And most importantly, it connects you to a private support group that I think is worth the lost weight we've spent there in gold, meaning hundreds of folks have found this as an amazing support group. But I walked the people through, the new students through the keto continuum, and I'll tell you, lots of the veteran students came along with. This past Friday, we spent over 2 hours answering some of the advanced questions for the last module, which is the deeper questions on what happens when you've been keto for a while, why is the fasting not working for me, what's going on in the chemistry level. And it was such a good session that we are going to use that recording to upload into the course modules. So we'll transcribe that and put the upload in there. Am I out of glucose meters? Oh my goodness. So I grabbed 2 packets of ketone measurements and no glucose measurements tonight. Last week I forgot the measurement tool. So dang, I'm just batting 1,000. I am still going to check my ketones just to kind of use that as my, this is what I do routinely every week. So let me circle back to that last thing. The last lecture I gave on Friday, over 2 hours long, answering some of the advanced questions for people who've been through that course, who've really been educated. I really just loved on the questions because they have really studied the ketogenic diet. They had great questions that truly did take some time to answer in a very thoughtful way. And the recording was so valuable to those that watched that there was overwhelming support to transcribe it, and then we will upload it to the course so that anybody who takes the course can go back and watch not only the first time I did that, but the second time I did that. So there are live question and answers available, or recorded question and answers available for that course. And I think it is truly one of the best sessions I've done is what we did this past Friday. All right, I'm going to check my ketones. So I don't have a glucose strip tonight. So we're just going to do ketones. I will prick my finger, and it's not as cold as it was last week, but it's still a little bit cold. So, and then tonight I actually got hot water because I'm going to do one of the ketones that I drink usually each Sunday during my live. I consume some ketones, and I show you what they do. So I did, for the first time in several months, make it 72 hours fasting this past week. If you are on 0.6 is not the best ketones, but at the beginning of a fast, that's not too bad for me. If you want to follow along with me as I do a fast, for like 3 years, I did a fast every week and posted it onto Instagram, and I did really well with that until my mother died. And then I've just had a really tough time getting back to my rhythm. But it turns out if I focus on another person, I do a lot better. So the other person that I've been focusing on is, big reveal, is my sister-in-law, who has moved to South Dakota. They have moved to the farm where I grew up. My brother and my sister-in-law and her kids have moved to the farm, and she wanted help being consistently keto. I said, actually, my husband, God bless him, said, you know, honey, you've been looking for somebody to do a documentary on as they go through the keto continuum. So at the funeral, I was a little vulnerable, and neither of us were expecting this. And my husband said, you know, so just showing you what I'm doing under the table here. I'm using the Mexican spice, which I have some updates for in just a second, but I actually really like this one hot. It's probably the only keto drink that I like to drink warm. But I think it fits great on a, we did get a pretty good amount of snow today. So you can say a snow day in South Dakota, but gosh, isn't that most days in the winter? So as I was sitting at the funeral and my husband, maybe it was after the funeral, I don't know, it was somewhere in the midst of that awful week. And my husband said, you know, you've been looking for somebody to do for the documentary. And the documentary is to start somebody who, like most people, have tried to be keto and just struggled. And the struggle leads to a little bit of lax in the rules and a little bit further lax in the rules, a little bit further lax in the rules. And then suddenly you're just not keto anymore. So nothing like a sister-in-law, which showing up with cameras to record something that you're definitely sensitive about. I mean, I think anybody who's struggled with their weight, it will be sensitive about it. But the recordings started in December, and we've been doing, we did some pretty intense work the first couple of weeks, and then we've been doing check-ins. She's doing great. It's really fun to watch what she does, but it turns out that if I can't fast with my mom, or kind of as a, connection with my mom, that might be a good idea to do it with my sister-in-law. So that's what we've been doing, and I made it 72 hours for the first time since my mother died this past week. And I sent out a message on Instagram afterwards. Why is it that I forget how great it feels to be on this side of 72-hour fasting? It's like euphoric. And anyway, it was great. I want to say thanks to my sister-in-law for saying yes and fasting with me. So, all right, I won't be able to check my sugar. Like I said, I forgot the strips. I bought 2 bottles of the ketone strips and no bottles of the glucose strips. So we'll just check ketones at the end as well. All right, so we're going to do a couple little updates. Number one, there's a couple of issues on Amazon that are about to be fixed. So Mexican spice is only available on the website bozmd.com, and it's because of a couple of documents that just we've submitted them several times, and we think now we have the document they really want that is the same as it's been with all the other products, but somehow this one got a hiccup. So it should be available on Amazon coming up in the next week. Raspberry lemonade is on its way to Amazon. It actually is there. I can see that the shelf is stocked. So any moment now, they should have it for sale on Amazon again. I know we've been out for about, I think we're at like 8 or 9 weeks. And we had some on bozmd.com, but now we've been out of both of them. So the shipment has been sent to my fulfillment center is actually in Texas. So the snowstorm completely blocked the ability to deliver all of that this past week. So I'll just say we're continuing to roll through every obstacle possible. You also may notice that this product, my favorite, the keto combo with BHB and MCT in it, is not available right now on Amazon. I swear, if I can go 9 weeks, 10 weeks in a row without anything going wrong on Amazon, it's harder than heart failure treatment. It's just incredibly difficult to not have anything go wrong. So we're working through whatever that problem is. Just stay tuned. The only place you can buy the keto combo is on Amazon. So I'm sorry for those of you that have written in. We do have some good news though. So let's go to some browsing over here. Before I head over to the other browsing, I'm going to show you the poll for today. So again, on the channel, if you click on community, it takes you to the poll. And the question for today has been, does your family living this? And I will click that mine does. And it showed you that I am totally in the minority here. Like, I think that it was 80-20 about an hour ago. So some of you have said, yes, the family does eat with me, or the people that live with me eat with me, do eat keto. We're going to talk about this because I think it is a difficult equation. And I'll show you some tricks that I recommend for the folks that are in my local area. So let's see, do I have everything updated? So this was my reminder to say that that's still coming soon. Don't ask me about that. It says it's out of stock, but the truck is at the edge of the snowstorm and is about to be delivered, so that this should be back for sale, hopefully tomorrow or maybe the next day. And then knowing that the Mexican spice is on the next page, and you can't get that on Amazon right now because of some paperwork. So know that we are getting it to you. Hold on. I got click happy. There we go. So yeah, the Mexican spice is the one I'm drinking tonight. If you have some, I have people say, no, I don't like it as much as the chocolate, and I would encourage you to do it warm. That's how I have that one. There's a couple of folks who have written in saying they use it for in a couple recipes. So I do want to point out some superstars here. So first of all, Keto Continuum is the book that I just wrote, and its audio book is available now. And it refers to a workbook that's still underway, but there is the PDF that's associated with the audiobook is now uploaded into Audible. That was missing. You submit them, they have to go through a committee, and then it finally gets uploaded, so it's there. I am going to just take a minute to review a couple of folks who said, Ketosis, Wisdom, and More. I love this by Connie. She said, loved it, especially like the fact that we get to follow someone's story. Learn so much about being in ketosis and beyond. Many good points, and we'll be listening to this one again and again. Can't wait to get the charts mentioned. So that's where the PDF is attached now, so you can go there and download it. Thanks for the review. It is absolutely the best way to say thank you is to please leave a review. And the goal, as a teacher for med students, but for kids and for just patients, I really find that the story of teaching, or the teaching, but with the use of a story, is really, I think it's critical for people to grasp and then remember how to apply it in their own life. So I'm going to do one more review. I don't remember this was Stacy Fox who wrote this one. So Dr. Bosworth does an excellent job describing the science behind the benefits of living in ketogenic life. The true story of Grandma Rose inspired David to turn around his health and motivates the reader to do the same using your body's chemistry. So I really appreciate this. It is absolutely my favorite way to engage, not just with you, but also with the feedback, actually. Having been in the world of trying to, I think most people know this by now. When you go to your physician, I'm an internal medicine physician, but if there's reimbursement by insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, your physician will be ranked. Your physician will be judged on how well the outcomes in your healthcare are measured. Some of those outcomes, I think, are like lukewarm water outcomes. They're like, if they are depressed, do you have them on an antidepressant? Like, I think that's kind of not the best way to measure anybody's outcome. Meaning antidepressants work when they work, and they are not an end-all be-all, but some of the metrics that are measured include, has the patient lost weight? Are they at their ideal body weight? There are some labs that go along with measuring the physician's outcome. But what I think is the most difficult is in short little segments of time to impart information and educate a patient in such a short little section. It is in the story Any Way You Can and in Keto Continuum that I take advantage of saying, here's what here's what is ideal. When I get to spend the time and engage in the life of people and really help them through a difficult situation, this is what I want them to know. So I think the book Any Way You Can, again, was the beginner's guide. If they've never heard of a ketone, that's the best place to go. I do want you to know that, again, last week, the two audio books that were offered for free, there's 3 audiobooks offered for free, all got clicked and somebody has them. I think one of them was able to say during the show that they were the winner of the free books. But I'm going to do that again tonight. And so the key to winning is to write down this website, www.audible.com/ACX-promo. And I'll give away one of the Any Way You Can. And that is good in either US or the European market. I think it says global. So even if it's not European, it just means outside the US. Let's see here. I need to go here, go here, go here. And then there we go. The other one that I will do is I have promo codes to give away the free audiobook for Keto Continuum. One will only work outside the US, and the other one works inside the US, and we'll give away all of those at the end tonight. All right. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to get to the lesson for tonight. I think I covered everything that I was trying to get to. The biggest things were the announcements that I am working on the workbook. It is, my husband says just push print, but I think it needs another edit. So I'm sorry that it's not done yet. It is something I'm working on. And I think you don't have to have the workbook to succeed, but it is a great way to step through some of these difficult challenges. And that's what we used with David in the story. It was his engagement in using keto and where he fell and didn't fall off. David was in a house that was partly keto. And then at the beginning, nobody was keto, but at the end, they were keto-ish. And he did not have anybody else in the house that fasted. But when he fasted, he found his way through it. I think it's worthy of a conversation, which is why I highlighted it tonight. Again, I do try to keep up with the slew of messages that come in through different mediums. I first focus on first thing I do actually is look at reviews for the book. So I love reading those. Those are when I get downtime, that's the first place I go. But then I check into the neurons, and the beautiful part about having an improvement in someone's journey is when they're sharing it with a community. But if they stumble, I do look inside that neurons group and try to, when my leaders can't answer a question, they make sure that I dial in to do it too. To be part of the neurons group that's the section that's coupled with the Consistently Keto online course. So if you are looking for that support after this after this lecture, you can find that on the website bozmd.com/shop. Okay, so when your house isn't keto, I do get this a lot. I actually thought that when I put out that poll, it was going to be a lot closer to once you've been keto for a while and people feel so good. It's very attractive. People want to know what you're doing and how to do it. And especially with some of the clear steps that at least we lead people through, I'm just shocked that so many of you would do it alone. Oh my gosh, that's hard. So let's just break down what I like to think about when I'm asked this question. The first thing I do is as you saw last week, I focused on insulin in kids and how that process of high insulin grows over time, especially starting in the first grade where there's snacks and every 2 hours they are fed. So I divided this up into if you're the leader of a house, specifically if you're the mom, dad, or whatever level of authority over growing kids. I get a lot of questions that come in saying, is it okay for kids to be keto? I remind you that breast milk is keto. If you didn't take a look at last week's Sunday Night Live, I did go through the slides about how powerful it is that when insulin rises and comes down, rises and comes down, and what that does when you stack meals too close together. It also is impressive to me as I did this documentary with my sister-in-law, who is a great mom, above and beyond a great mom, and would do anything for her kids. And I've heard this before too. You'll do anything for your kids. They run in front of a bus to stop for them. Would you induce the keto setting for them? Because that's what you're going to need to succeed at the beginning. That was a danger zone. Like, that was a much more difficult question to answer. As I look at my sister-in-law's name is Michelle. So I look at Michelle, and you'll get to learn all about Michelle in the documentary. It will be aired here on YouTube. We're working hard on tightening up those episodes. We think there's going to be 10 or maybe 11 of them. And then hopefully we have a live YouTube to wrap up her story as well. So I'm really excited about it. But as she entered into the first few weeks, the first week, I show up at the house, we're walking through the keto continuum, and of course that we have her prepare, and one of the preps is to clean out the cupboards. And the number of things in the cupboard where, well, that's what my son would want. He's 12. That's what my son would want. He's 12. And watching to see how much that weight of having his needs outrank hers. And this became, this was a very severe rift in her ability to completely commit to being keto. So it was through that conversation that I talked about, you have a 12-year-old boy whose brain is growing. If you're looking at some of the best things he'll remember, especially, that's right at the time when boys are about to hit puberty, growth spurts are happening. The best way to build muscles, not fat, is going to have a decreased amount of insulin and foods that give him true satiation. Through the next week and a half, she committed. I think the use of cameras around her didn't go unnoticed. So she said, okay, we'll do it your way. We'll have the whole family go keto. And as she stepped over, cleaned out the cupboards, had a fitful 12-year-old, but again, reinforcing that as the leader of her family, when she is healthy and the decisions she makes, as much as parents think their kids don't listen and watch what they're doing, it is the number one pattern behavior is to imprint off of what your parents did. We all have these things our parents do that says, hey, I am not going to be like my mother. I am not going to be, picked from smoking to drinking, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever way was dysfunctional in your childhood, that adult will say, I'm not going to be like my parent. And I will tell you, the behavior patterns that show up over time in the adult are rooted, especially into those teenage years. So once I restored that place saying, I need you to be the authority, if nothing for 12 weeks, and that the house is going to be keto, and your 12-year-old will live. Everybody else in the family was actually pretty supportive. It was the 12-year-old that was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And he was struggling with a lot of things. He was struggling with focus. He was struggling with his not just attention span, but irritable mood would come quicker than the family wanted. And I suppose it's that youngest child thing too, where like, just shh. And if it was carbohydrates that made him be quiet, that was easier than putting up a boundary and really setting some rules around the house. But within a week, it was fascinating. That's probably my favorite part of what's happened in this documentary, is what's happened to their 12-year-old son. How much, first of all, he's like, my pants are falling off within a week of a 12-year-old. His ability to sleep deeper, focus during school, and truly have an attraction returned to the family, as opposed to, that annoyance that can happen when behavior becomes to a certain level. So the first step I would talk about, if nobody's keto in your house and you're the authority and you're worried about, I can't do this without my kids. Number one, I would ask that moms and dads, remember that you are in a leadership role for a reason. There are plenty of places your kids will get carbs. Do I think her son is perfectly keto? No. He leaves the house. Do I think my kids are perfectly keto? No, they leave the house. But at home, they see this is what healthy looks like. This is what good food looks like. Less processed food, getting those whole foods back to the table, sitting down to eat, all of those will be things that I don't have to think about. Will they remember this? I know they'll remember this. So number one, moms and dads, return to the authority. The other thing that I ask Michelle to do, and I ask a lot of the patients that come into my world who've failed on keto, and they have these teenagers that really have fraught, they've kind of derailed them, trying to make sure that the teenager is eating enough. And I'm like, they'll get plenty of carbs, I promise. That they don't get them in your house is step one. But especially for those patients who've either really struggled with their weight. I've got a couple of folks that have had recent heart attacks, and we need a very clean diet for them. We need them not wavering. Their house has to be the sanctuary. I've got a couple folks that are using it for in conjunction with their chemotherapy, and they can't afford to have. They've got grandkids, actually, is what is in their house, so they keep foods for the grandkids. I'm like, don't do that. Do not do that. Find a way to clean up that house for the unit. And what happens is the imprinting. So that's step one. So the next place that I said, well, if you're the teenager, and we do have some young adults who say, I live at home, and or I live in a place where, teens that live at home, but some young adults in their early 20s still living at home say, no one else is keto. And how do you navigate through that? And the first thing I would talk about is how attractive it is when people get healthy. I was talking about to somebody about how to improve on YouTube, and they had they'd heard of keto. They clicked on a couple of the videos, and they said, why are you talking about all this arthritis and all this brain stuff? I thought this was just a weight loss. I'm like, there's where there's the disconnect is. When you watch, keto has weight loss, sure, but there's ways you can not lose weight. I have patients where I need them to gain muscle mass throughout the next 12 weeks. That we are working on that, but I don't want them to gain weight through putting on fat, and I don't want them to gain weight through inflammation. So they're on a strict ketogenic diet, and we are working to gain weight. That process isn't simple. But what is attractive about somebody like a teenager or somebody that's in their early 20s, in an area where mom and dad aren't keto and no one else is keto, they have the fastest response. So if you like that 12-year-old that my nephew who starts keto, his mom's tried keto a couple times. She's now on a documentary, really wants to get good results and fast because there's cameras. And her son loses, I think, 8 or 9 pounds in the first 2 weeks, and his pants are falling off. They need a belt, and his mood is better. His sleep, it was like magic. I'm like, if you want to attract somebody to see the power of what ketones do, teens, you go for it. I actually wish, as a teenage girl, I could have not just. I didn't struggle with weight a lot. I was really active. But in my mid-20s, absolutely. I'm in medical school. I am sitting. I am studying. I'm out of every exercise routine I've ever been in, and not going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I wish I would have known that the rules for weight loss and mental acuity are all in the number of carbs, especially those who are at risk for being insulin resistant. So, the advice I have for the non-authorities is, first of all, you have short time frames to show off. If you can set up your universe, find a way to be keto for even 2 weeks. They have. Many of you have seen the video that I did with my son, who I said, just give me 5 days, and we'll count pimples at the beginning, and we're going to count pimples at the end. And the goal was to do it for 2 weeks, but within 5 days, his face was like. You would have thought it was a prescription medication. It was just amazingly better. So looking at the improvement that when they're in that younger years, attracting people to keto it isn't easy, but they have the fastest way to do this. All right, so the next one is where I think most of you are lying, and that is when you have the co-authority. Co-authority either means husband and wife, or the folks out there that are that have roommates. And you say, well, what am I supposed to do about this? So this is where I've done this about 3 times in the last week with different patients, and I thought, oh, that's probably a great thing to talk about when difficult conversations come up in life. So this isn't all keto. This is about one of those things I like to teach my patients when they're struggling, or if they have a spouse that's sabotaging them. Again, I've been taking care of addiction for a long time, so I've taught this long ago. I'm actually watching the comments. If you have ever seen this taught, See, Think, Feel, Need, put in a comment in there saying yes. So maybe yes, I've seen it, or no, I haven't seen it, so I can keep track of who has seen this. See, Think, Feel, Need is something I teach at my workshops. I also teach this whenever I'm running group for my addiction group. All right, so I've got a few answering. So I'm gonna do this in a neuroscience-y kind of way. I think I'm gonna need the bigger version of me. Yeah, so let's do this. All right, so See, Think, Feel, Need actually has a process that does not flood the brain. You'll see teachers use this. If you Google it, you'll see lots of teaching techniques or improvement in communication using See, Think, Feel, Need. I think some of them are See, Think, Feel, Wonder, See, Think, Feel, Do, but I was taught See, Think, Feel, Need. So I actually was looking for the paper that talked about the functional MRI on what happens when you're about to have a conversation that is intense. So let's just imagine that there's a spouse who says, keto's killing you, you cannot do it. And the spouse has either been secretly doing keto and feeling great, or trying to do keto and their spouse wants nothing to do with it. So See, Think, Feel, Need is a process of discussing a difficult conversation, or a conversation that is loaded with emotion that stops the person who's delivering the information from escalating, and it is the least escalating for somebody that's hearing the information. When I first was using this, probably, I think my son was, my youngest son, who's now 20, maybe he was 3, and there were some parenting things that I was trying to struggle with my husband, saying, I want to do it this way, and he wanted to do it that way, and nobody was wrong, but we had to find a way that was common ground here. So I'd gone to this workshop about functional MRIs, and one of them was talking about See, Think, Feel, Need, where if you looked at somebody having the conversation, they were under the functional MRI, and they kind of blurted out what they wanted to say to their husband about this intense conversation, and you would see the limbic system kind of explode. You'd see their brain kind of light up because they're really charged. When using See, Think, Feel, Need, there was a lot less explosion going on the imagery for the functional MRIs. Now, I tried to find that in preparation for this, and I could not find the paper. So I'll just tell you what I learned and show you how the techniques are used. So what I'd like you to do for this, because it really does help imprint it. And one of the people I was talking to about this was my sister-in-law, and I was telling her about See, Think, Feel, Need. She goes, because she moved into my mom's house, she goes, there's this little card on the back of one of the blinds, and it says See, Think, Feel, Need. I'm like, oh yeah, I taught my mom this too. So See, Think, Feel, Need starts by, and I have people write down See, Think, Feel, Need, and then I have them do these 4 motions. When you think about see, I want you to touch right by your eye, and it's because the order of this matters. And the biggest mistake made when people are trying to unpack a difficult conversation, that you want to find a way to the other side without just kind of hiding or becoming disconnected. I mean, we need no divorces over keto. This is possible to navigate through. See, Think, Feel, Need is a technique of communication that doesn't flood your brain with emotion. It also doesn't flood the recipient of who you're trying to discuss this conversation with. So see is the biggest mistake people make when they see, is they're supposed to say what they observe. but many times they start to say what they think. So I see you're dressed. I think you're irritated. I see, so let's just take, if you come home from supper, come home from work, and maybe your spouse has supper available for you and it's pasta. You can say, I see that you've made supper. But what you can't do at that moment is you cannot tell them what you're thinking without saying what you're thinking. So I see that you've made supper, and I think it's for me. I think you want me to eat this because you don't want me to eat keto. So the difference between that is you must first observe, and see things have to be they have to be tangible. So you can say things like, I see you're irritated, but that usually doesn't work out so well. If you don't want to see somebody's emotions, you want to see what's going on. So that first part, touching your eye, is because I'm trying to get you to remember that do not hop over to the thinking until you can observe something. And I think when I'm training people to do this, it's actually really funny because I'm like, you cannot see anger. Okay, you stop doing that. So see. The second part is to tell them what you think. And in a way that's not shaming or aggressive, but I see you've made me supper and that it's pasta. I think you want me to eat that, and that you are interested in me eating that because you don't want me to eat keto. And then the next place I have them touch is their heart, because the third word is to feel. And so you're trying to, the specific order of saying what you observe, saying what you think, and then touching the emotional component, truly being able to articulate the emotion. And that's the hardest part. If you start out with the emotion, explosions everywhere. So don't do that. If you are having confrontation, I know this is a psychology lesson, but I just find this so useful when people are trying to navigate keto or anything in life. I'm actually watching some of the comments. There are several books on this. They really are worth the time spent teaching this if you're looking to navigate it, because the feeling is, I feel hurt. And I think that's my favorite one to give as an example, because allowing that hurt, that to be one of the places of a little bit of vulnerable, is not as charging as saying, I feel irritated. Even if you are irritated, focus on the hurt part. Because when I was asking Michelle to stand in front of her 12-year-old son and say, I need you to ask him for help. You've got trouble with your weight. If you ask your 12-year-old son to help you, he's going to help you. He loves you. You're a great mom. But that step of asking and being vulnerable was what's in the needs. And so her situation could have been like this. I see that you got out the cereal this morning, and when Aunt Annette told you couldn't have it, you got angry. Okay, see, I just did that. He did get angry, but I see that when you got the cereal out this morning and Aunt Annette told you couldn't eat that until you first had the eggs and sausage, you slammed down the cereal box and stomped out of the room. I think you're struggling with going keto. And that's where the next part got harder, where Michelle could say, I feel alone in this journey of trying to work on my weight. And then the last one, see, think, feel, need, I have them touch their stomach, their gut. Their gut instinct is, I need some help. And the delivery of that, even if it's the exact same words that I said, fill in the blanks for whatever your spouse is doing or your roommate is doing to sabotage it. The see, think, feel, need is one of those places where what you did is opened up the conversation in a way that allows them to arrive and navigate this difficult environment without divisiveness. I often tell people, do not look to Washington to come up with ideas on how to run your home. And this is a great thing. If the senators and politicians could see, think, feel, need a little bit more, we might see some movement from what, well, I don't think we want any movement from Washington. When you watch how to navigate your home, especially in a place where we're talking about her life. She's in her mid 40s, and she's struggled with weight and blood pressure for a while. And her success couldn't be more enjoyable to watch. First of all, my mother would be so proud, so thankful, so happy to see not just the improvement in our relationship, but that my brother and sister-in-law are living at their house on the farm. Having that difficult conversation with her son, and also knowing that when I saw that 77 or 80% of you are doing keto by yourself, and most of the reasons they're doing keto by themselves, it's short-lived. They do run into a lot more troubles. I'll tell you that when I say when I use teenagers trying to navigate through some struggles with friends, maybe they don't use see, think, feel, need, but to start out by saying what you observe, what you're thinking, and then get to how you feel, and mention that in this negotiation of how do you find a way to put a change of eating habits into the place that you live. The reason you want to address this, though, and not hide behind the veil of saying, they don't need to do keto with me, I'm fine, I'm doing it alone, is that it does, the stress of conflict it's a huge sabotage, not just in the cortisol level of raising your cortisol, never really feeling that calm peacefulness that comes from a home that's, even if there's differences of opinion, you are stable in your differences of opinion, and you're okay with each other. You're communicating about it. That's a gift that will help your weight loss. So there is plenty of motivation for why you should do that. You know, the final thing that I talk about when it comes to the sustainability of a ketogenic diet is the support group. I think we've done this for like 5 weeks in a row now, guys, is I've brought up support groups. And I just can't tell you, I wish I could capture the number of people that when they get in a support group, they succeed. And then their family sees their success, and their coworkers see their success. The process of improving how they think, the reversal of several of their medications and their inflammation becomes a walking billboard. So in the place where keto isn't a possibility for the rest of the world, I encourage you to broach that conversation with See, Think, Feel, Need, and then find a support group. We have lots of ways to connect you with support groups. We don't have a cost associated with that. Once you're in the Neurons group, we want support groups happening and starting without a cost associated with it. All right, so that brings us to about 3/4 of the hour. I know that I actually was hoping to be done by half past the hour, but I am going to look for a couple of questions before I give away the books and check my ketones. I think there's any good questions in there, Jack. So Jack's with me, and he has been watching your questions. So I'm going to scroll through and look at them a little bit. And also, if you copy and paste that question down there.
Jody wants to know what's the latest in the day it's safe to drink Ketone in a can before you get too much energy.
Okay, yes. So Jody just posted this question. I think it might be a repeat because Jack said it's a good one. She goes, for a newbie struggling and using ketones in a can, what's the latest in the day you'd say it's okay to drink it, or to drink before it's a bad idea and you'll stay awake all night? You know, I'm going to stand corrected for this because, again, I run a support group here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And it is something where I have folks do check-ins. And we have a couple of people who have had some really life-threatening issues where they've done fasting for an extended period of time, something that I wouldn't recommend to a newbie. But in that, the check-in commented that she has her ketones in a can in the evening around 6 o'clock when she used to eat. And personally, I have way too much energy when I do that. I can't sleep. And so on the show here, I've said several times, I take it in the afternoon. I take it in the afternoon. She started sipping on it. Again, you want to sip on ketones in a can. Ketones in a can, you'll see I'm drinking ketones in a can. By the end of the hour, you'll see my ketone numbers are going to be higher. They are in your circulation within 10 to 15 minutes. They peak at 2 hours. And then if your body knows how to use a ketone, it's going to use it as fuel. If the body says, hey, I'm using them as fast as I can, then you'll pee them out. You'll void them out. So to have them guzzle them turns into a colon cleanse. It's a salt. It's going to give you diarrhea. So you want to sip on it. So the part that I would encourage you, Jody, is so the reason I say that is my personal experience, and then what I had heard from patients for a while was that most of them did it like I did it. But here was a couple of people who said, my worst cravings are at night. They're trying to fast. I mean, this was an extended fast, which again, I do not recommend. Please don't do that until you are, anyway, watch the course. I'll tell you when to fast that long. Second year of keto and now doing some serious interventions because of some health issues. And where they were using those ketones was later in the night. They started like at 6 o'clock, and she said, I just sipped on them all the way till bedtime. And what she was able to do is avoid eating, which was it's like her cross to bear. She just kept finding food. And as soon as she started to do that, again, you'll find energy. That's why I'm saying I get energy when I have these. But my body really knows how to use them too. I'm very keto adapted. So if you're a newbie, and if you're using them, the first symptom that happens when you use ketones in a can is it lowers your appetite. There are several other signaling properties. And what I mean by that is, much like a hormone has signaling properties, it tells cells what to do. It tells bodies how to act. Ketones in a can have signaling properties that are very connected to metabolism, to the production of more ketones, to cell turnover. That list is a little too long to go through all now, but those are the highlights. But the number one first thing that happens is it suppresses their appetite. So if you're saying, I'm struggling and I'm using ketones in a can and I'm afraid to take them too late, I would try it. Try to take it when the times when you have the hardest struggle. And then remember, don't guzzle, sip. Like it's taken me an hour to get this ketones in a can down. I've got one little swallow left. And if I was, I think that's sipping. That was about, a cup and a half of liquid over an hour. And when you look at that, the other thing that I highly encourage if you're having struggles and you're trying to, I guess, let's just leave it at that. I don't know more about the story. Let's see if I can find another one. So thank you for that. And so here's a carnivore for life who just wrote in. Actually, Jody just said, yes, thank you. When I say newbie, I am just starting to try to do the first week and have 20 carbs or less a day, so not fasting. Good. Yeah, so again, the ketones in a can are my favorite way to help a newbie that's got trouble. I have several patients that have come to my support group because they inject insulin. And so here's the insulin they inject, here's the insulin their body makes. They have so much of a chemistry thing going on that I need their body to learn how to make ketones, and they were having a tough time even getting the ketones to be produced. So I said, for 2 weeks, I want you drinking ketones in a can. In that process, I want you to get down to 20 carbs or less, as you have 2 weeks to do it. And man, that trick has worked so well for those folks where it's not such a quick shutdown that I give people that are healthier than that. I want to go to the carnivore for life. Who says, I'd like to increase growth hormone, but I'm not healthy, and I'm thinking about the sauna. If I'm doing a tanning bed UVB for vitamin D, will this raise my growth hormone? No. Growth hormone is related to, okay, so first of all, if there's ever a person who should watch the final video in my online course, it would be Carnivore for Life. It takes me an hour, and I have these awesome slides. And I will not do it on this channel because if they haven't gone through the other parts to get educated, and I try to answer that question because it's a great question. And it's one I spent tons of time answering and trying to get, like, this is really important. When my mother was, recovering from chemotherapy and the surgeries and all the stuff that happened to her, growth hormone, I wanted to inject it, but that was not healthy for her either. Growth hormone and the production of it is what reverses age. If you look at, it's a powerful part of the story. The sauna will help you, but the sauna needs to get you sweating. 180 degrees for 18 minutes is where the best data comes from. There are some places that say, if you're trying to get growth hormone, that's an intense stimulus to your body. I would get you far into keto continuum before I would think about hacking the growth hormone. When people try to hack their growth hormone too early in keto continuum, let me just make sure I'm saying this all correctly here. So here's keto continuum. If you look at the place where, I'm going to make this a little bigger here. There we go. I'm guessing you're somewhere, if you're looking at a sauna and you're looking for increasing growth hormone, that you may be at 16.8 or advanced 16.8. Some people call that intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. I don't say the word fasting until you're 36 hours of fasting. But growth hormone has been replaced before you stress the body. And I have seen this go wrong so many times that I would be very careful. If you're trying to get growth hormone, then there are some steps involved, and they are clear. You cannot skip them. You have to get to the place where you are now ready for fasting and extended fasting to get the growth hormone to rise. That is an easy question to answer as far as the data. It is a hard question to answer when you're trying to manipulate the human to fit into it. So I would, if you've taken the course, go back and watch that video. It's going to answer that question really well for you. Okay, let's go back over here to our chat. We're going to do one more question, and then I will give away our book. Check my numbers, actually. So let's see. So there's somebody says, any tips on healing adrenal fatigue and cortisol? I still wake up at 3 a.m. every morning and struggle to get more than 5 hours of sleep. So honestly, I have a YouTube, or I have a quick 5-minute video coming out this week that's on adrenal fatigue and talks about this. But when you're having that middle of the night awakening, the truth about what I would tell you to do is, let's see if I can do it quickly. Let's go to over here. Go to here. Go to here. Okay, so on my Dr. Boz favorites, there is a device that I absolutely love. And it's somebody who's in this situation. You're struggling with something happening in your sleep, but it's a mystery. And if you scroll down, these are all the things that I like. And one of them is this Muse meditation device, the Muse S headband. And EEG is what I would use if I sent you to a sleep lab and I would want to watch what happens inside your brain. And Muse, this headband, it's like $300 or something. You get a little discount when you go through the link, but so it's expensive, but it teaches you how to meditate. When I have people struggling with adrenal fatigue, what they're really saying is their cortisol either doesn't rise and fall correctly, or they're in a chronic state of stress. And I can spend $10,000 of your dollars studying your hormones, and it still wouldn't give you the treatment plan that's needed to get you to not do that. The way to get you sleeping at night and steadily deeper into your sleep is to first study it. No one's going to study it as well as you are. And this device allows you to study it. It is an EEG-like headband that the device touches the skin up right above your ears. It touches the skin on your forehead, and you hook it to your smartphone, and you meditate with it. But also when you sleep at night, it studies how well did your brain shut down. And when their brain isn't shutting down, their cortisol is constantly on. Kind of like when you fight with your spouse about keto. If you're in an unsettled environment, you constantly fire. That constant production of hormone is stress. I mean, that is going to sabotage anybody's metabolism. And the answer to what would I do about that is I would study yourself. And I know that's a lot of money, but it's how I begin for patients when they are struggling. How did I want to do that? I want to go back to here. Oops. Actually, I wanted to go over to. I need to go to Keynote. Sorry. What am I doing? When I do this, okay. So I think the next slide has the code on it. So before I push the code, I was going to check my numbers. The next slide, it has the code on it, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So if I push it, then you have to be ready. So I'm trying to give you a little time to get to the website here. And remember, the first code is I'm just going to show you. I'll go off of this here. So we're at the end of the hour, and I don't have my glucose. I'm sorry. But you can see that little blinking dot or blinking drip there means that my ketone meter is ready. And it is going to count down to, at least I have half of the Dr. Boz ratio. Dang, next week I'll get it right. So yeah, up by 0.3. I might actually check it again here in about 3 more minutes. I just know that I spoke for the first 20 minutes before I had much to drink. So I thought, oh, that's going to not turn out as well. But it is higher, and I didn't do anything to make ketones. The only way those went up is because I swallowed some. So let's go over to, let's go to Keynote here, and there we go. Our journey, and be watching for that series.
Brian is actually in the chat.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Brian, one of the people that is our heroes, is in our chat tonight. So if you give him a thank you for being brave to tell his story, he is on an awesome journey, and I think you're going to be really impressed to hear what he's done, and just to know that you're not alone. Even if your household doesn't have a keto partner in it, you can show up here on Sunday nights, and you're going to see some other keto people. Nothing like that chat inside our Neurons group to get you a very engaged group of supporters, if nothing else, who struggle with you and hopefully succeed with you. All right, we're signing off. Dr. Boz, we'll see you next week on Sunday night.